Welcome to the 52 Love Podcast, your show for 52 lessons in 52 weeks. Before we dive in, remember you can find the audio version of this episode, along with the rest of the series, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Radio Public. And now, here's your host, Ms. Tonya Todd.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the 52 Love Podcast. I'm your host, Tonya Todd. 52 Love began as a blog series last year, 52 Love Lessons in 52 Weeks. This year, we are exploring each of those tips with a new guest each week. This week's tip is to have a naughty nooner with your partner, and here to talk about it is my guest, Ashleigh. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell the audience what you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tonya. And thanks for having me on this episode specifically, because naughty nooner is my favorite way to roll. So my name's Ashleigh Renard. I'm a former figure skating coach and choreographer who finally, after 30 years of intending to author a book, figure skating has a way of taking over a life, sort of like a forest fire takes over an area. I retired from my life on the ice to focus on my writing, and my debut memoir, Swing, a memoir of doing it all, came out on May 25th.
Congratulations. I don't suppose you have a copy of it so we can see that gorgeous cover.
I certainly do, right here.
And it's funny because it seems like we planned that, but we did not.
We did not. I actually like laying my phone on it because I have a glass desk. So I don't know, it just cushions it a bit, like a phone
It's
poster.
nice to have it handy. Very smart marketing, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about your experience with this tip.
Okay, so I think finding the right time to be intimate with your partner is 90% of the battle to having great intimacy and to having it regularly. For me, I go hard all day. So night times are for sleeping.
Interesting choice of words.
I go hard at work. I'm an Enneagram 3 and former competitive athlete. So the only thing I make time for really all day is work usually. So night times are for sleeping in my world, because my head hits the pillow and I'm immediately out. Thank goodness, because my mind is so busy all day. And mornings are for coffee. That's it. So having sex in the middle of the day is fantastic for me. Fantastic. I love having sex right before lunch or right before dinner, sort of on an empty stomach, getting like, you're just agile at that time. So,
especially as an ice skater, huh?
That's right. My husband, Manny, works from home ever since the beginning of pandemic. And we met working together right out of college. So being together during the day, and I think the first time we ever were intimate, no, I don't think, I'm actually remembering it pretty specifically right now. We're right out of college. We were working together. We both have degrees in exercise physiology. So we were training athletes during the day, and then we would work out, and then we would go back to his apartment because it was close for lunch. And I think after one of those lunches one day, he jumped out of the shower and we hooked up. So yeah, this midday tryst, I think, is actually kind of going back to our roots. So now we have 3 kids who are home all the time too. But thank goodness, when they are on their devices playing video games, they do not care what we are doing. They do not care how long we are out of sight. They just don't want us to say, okay, it's time to take a break from Xbox. So what I like to do, because my husband's the busiest in the morning when the stock market opens and we're on the East Coast, around noon or early afternoon, after I've taken the dog for a jog, had a shower, I love to text him, or we have this whistle that indicates, oh my gosh, this is funny because I didn't know I was going to tell you about the whistle. It's this whistle that indicates that we have a fresh, clean body in here. Like if you want to come check it out. So he does like to do that very much. So he will come, he'll help me put on body oil after the shower. And then We toss a big blanket. We call it our sex blanket. We have 2 in rotation now because it gets thrown in the washer after every time we're intimate.
Yeah,
Toss
that's
a
smart.
big blanket over the bed, pull down the shades. So like, especially we live right outside Philadelphia and the summers are hot and humid, but to have those shades down, ceiling fan on in the middle of the day, oh, it's like almost like being in a cozy blanket fort or something. And then throw down the blanket, and my body's all oily. So usually he starts with a massage. He loves massaging my oily butt cheeks. And I have no qualms about this. I am in favor of this activity as well. And then we just go from there. Every time is a little bit different. And it's nice because we're actually less rushed during the day than we are at night, because he knows the clock is ticking for me getting tired and out of the mood.
I understand. So, it's funny because I didn't know all of this about you when I asked you to do this particular tip, but you jumped all over it. I asked you because I thought, considering your content, you would be open to at least discussing something like this in a public forum.
Yeah.
But you were so enthusiastic. You're like, yes. Oh God, yes, I want to do this one.
Yeah. Well, I think because, my book is about how, as a perfectionist mom, I took doing it all to the next level as the world's worst attempted swinger. So the content I share online on Instagram and TikTok are a lot of video series on making your relationship better, before you get to kind of the breaking point and the shenanigans and chaos that we did. So one of my series is how to keep monogamy hot. Another one is before you get a divorce. Another one, just because this makes everything easier, is how to get your kids to clean the house. Like if you procreate and have extra humans around the house, they should at least
they help contribute to the mess. They should help contribute to cleaning
exactly.
it.
Right. Because a lot of people, I find, don't have great communication with their partner because they are just overwhelmed in all areas. And having a house that has some sense of order and routine, I think, is a big part of that. So I try to come at it from all those different angles. One of the main things with keeping monogamy hot is that, well, anything that you do the same way over and over is bound to lose a little bit of its luster, right? And the swing lifestyle was not for us, but damn, when things are novel, like, it is so hot. So figuring out how to bring a bit of variety into a long-term monogamous relationship is a little bit tricky. And one of those main things is figuring out when you're going to do it, right? Because that gets like, we're going to do it in the morning, or we're going to do it at night, or you know what I mean? And then you just fall into like the same positions you normally do, right? I have so many DMs over on Instagram right now, like 200, Tonya, from women who fake orgasms regularly. Because they don't want to hurt their partner's feelings. And the 2 main reasons are they weren't really in the mood to begin with, or their partner's trying and the woman knows they're not going to climax. So they're just like, they're with a nice guy who wants them to climax first before they finish.
Right.
So they'll just fake it to like get it over with. I think anytime we can shake up what we regularly do, there's the potential that we can have better communication about what we really want, right?
Yeah.
So, and just changing the time of day can really help that. And then it actually, anytime you're having a discussion on anything around intimacy, whether it's the what, the when, the who, whatever, it opens up the potential that you're going to feel comfortable telling your partner something that you haven't before. Because even people who have been dating, like my husband and I have been together 19 years, there are still some things we haven't talked about. And we talk about this a lot because quite often I'm asking him questions to try to figure out what my next video is going to be. I talk about this every day online, but still there are things we haven't touched. And I think we were pretty open talking about sex from the beginning of our relationship. I get a lot of messages from people who grew up in an environment that did not encourage them getting in touch with their own body, any communication about sex before marriage. And then once they're married, people are having a hard time connecting with each other, figuring out what they like, communicating what they like. Like there's a whole bunch of unlearning and deconstruction that has to go on in order for them to really enjoy intimacy with their partner.
Yeah. And communication is a huge part of that.
It really is. It really is. It is the biggest part. And for a lot of people, it's the hardest part. Asking for what they want, letting someone know they don't like a way they're being touched.
Creating a safe space so that you can both have that conversation without feelings getting hurt. It's like the point is we need to be able to express these things in a constructive way, not in a way that hurts anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say most often people don't speak up because they're scared about their partner's feelings. And at the same time, most partners want more communication and feedback back from the person they're intimate with.
Right.
So it's like, but there's all of this, I don't know. Well, there's so many layers and reasons. Most of the sex we see in media is just, it's in media, right? Like we don't see other people. Unless you're at a sex club like we went to, you don't see other people actually engaging in intimacy. The only intimacy we see is staged. Right. So it is staged for like great camera angles. It is staged for like quick and dirty and easy because they need to get the other scenes in, right? So everything. And I think that people, when they watch an action movie, they know the car chase isn't real. But when they watch sex in media, especially if they're watching pornography, especially if they can say, oh, wow, those people are actually having sex, they think it's real. They forget that things are staged, that there are camera angles, that it is all acting. And especially...
and just like a car chase, you wouldn't think that you're going to get in a car and be able to drive like that and, do all of those dangerous stunts, but you watch a sex scene and you're like, I wish I looked like that. Like I should be able to do that thing,
Exactly. Or, oh, she seems to be having orgasm after orgasm after orgasm in that position. Okay. And for me, it's always like the exact opposite of what I would really like. Like I love having an orgasm during intercourse on top, like laying flat on top, Tonya, with my legs straight. And then I'm down like really low on the base of his penis. And I love rubbing my pubic bone against his, because ever since I had my first orgasm by myself, that was the kind of stimulation, like from outside, like stimulating. I think it's stimulating.
There are a lot of nerves there. I mean, that it's there for a woman. Like it's the reason it's like that.
Yes, exactly. But when I watch something on TV, it's like, okay, a woman's legs are spread and there's like penetration in, out, and she seems like she's having the time of her life. And I am like, fake news right there.
Not even touching the good parts,
Not even touching the good parts. Someone was in my direct messages the other day saying like, the idea that just penetration will get women to climax is like saying, oh yeah, if you fondle a man's testicles, he'll ejaculate. Some, maybe, sometimes.
It depends on the person, but in general, that's not the spot.
Exactly. In general, that is not the mechanism by which a man will climax.
And women don't need penetration at all to climax in general.
You know what? I like it for like that feeling of fullness, but I don't like thrusting.
But you don't need it.
I don't need it. I don't need it.
I'm not saying they don't like it. I'm saying they don't need it to climax.
You know what? And this is one of the things that we figured out in our midday sex, because we do make it like kind of quick and we want to both climax. Like what we used to call a quickie, like sort of like, bend over on the counter or jump up on the counter and just like, he would have an orgasm, but I wouldn't. Okay. So a couple of things that we figured out. First of all, we do not have intercourse during my fertile period at all. So we have 3 kids, but I haven't been on birth control since, 2006 when I first went off the pill to get pregnant with our first son.
Okay.
So we have tracked my cycle and practiced withdrawal. Well, the only time I ever have semen inside of me is if we're trying to have a baby.
Okay.
Right? So last time we did that was 2012. So withdrawal, always. I'm married to a very responsible ejaculator, but
that is a book title right there.
Yes.
Very responsible ejaculator.
He is. I mean, rock solid guy, super responsible ejaculator, right? So there's a lot of trust there. There's like, I mean, on a million levels, there's trust there, right? And he has, touch wood, never broken that trust, never failed. He's batting 1,000. But when I'm in my fertile period, we don't have intercourse at all, because we did up until this point in our marriage, but I'm 40 now and he's 41. And it's like, no babies, no babies, no babies. Like, we definitely do not want to get pregnant again. So
do you find other ways to make love?
We do. So a lot of we're actually more active during those red light weeks that we call them. So it's just like red light, like no penis in a vagina, because what we believe and what we teach our children, like they're 14, 12, and 8, and they know the basics of reproduction and consent in any kind of like physical play or anything like that.
Right.
But is that you never put sperm somewhere where a baby could grow, unless you're trying to grow a baby. And if you do know that there is an egg hanging out around there, you don't even put a penis up there. So what we love to do, and we've done this in the Naughty Nooners, is get into different positions with toys and oral. Favorite position for this. Okay, so we love oral sex. I don't love 69. Part of the reason is that it feels like really disconnected. Like, you're like head to toe, like almost like if you're like at a sleepover with a friend when you're a kid and you're like sleeping head to toe. It's like you're spreading out as much as you can on a couch. It's like, so 69, I don't know, it doesn't do it for me. So we figured out some positions where we can actually have eye contact during mutual stimulation. So I love laying on my back, flat on my back. And then my husband kneels beside me, and his penis is right like at my head level right here. Okay. And he can control the thrusting in and out. And like I said, he's a very responsible ejaculator. So he is a very considerate thruster wherever his penis is. So it's at a good angle. It's like at a good depth, all of those things. And then I use a toy on myself, and I like using a toy on myself to climax, because actually this is something
that's really hot for him too, though.
It is so hot. It is. I've never seen a look of pride and joy and I've had 3 babies that he was there for, on his face, as when I am laying back and his penis is in my mouth and I am climaxing. He is looking at me like he is the king of the freaking world. He's just like, he's looking at me like he's like, what if he could go back and tell his 14-year-old,
that's all mine.
He's like, what is this life? So that's super fun. And we just started using the Hitachi wand during the pandemic. So I can easily it took a little bit
of things didn't even get routine during the pandemic.
Oh my gosh, no, they didn't. And he's only been working at home since pandemic. We had the best sex of our 19-year relationship in pandemic.
Excellent.
Yes. And we already did all that work to actually get into a good place with our marriage and our communication and our parenting and our partnership. I mean, we as a family were primed for pandemic, we as a family were primed for pandemic because we were in this new healthy place. So being all together was actually a delight, because we got to enjoy the fruits of all that hard ass work we had done for years to
that's wonderful.
Renegotiate and kind of repattern how we did things. So the Hitachi wand took a little bit of getting used to because it's super strong. I've said this on a video on Instagram. I actually had to use it over top of my jeans the first day I got it.
Wow.
That
is strong.
I was like, I can't even take my clothes off. I'm just going to try this clothes to just get the hang of it. And that's what I always do. I always use toys solo before we use them together, just so I can like figure out how it works. And I like controlling it for when I climax. Same reason that he actually prefers to pull out when he climaxes, because then he gets to control the motion completely. So it's like pretty much every orgasm we have is like perfection. Because, I don't know if when I'm climaxing, if he like changes what he's doing or something, it's like, I don't know.
There's a reason for the phrase "don't stop." And it's that right there.
That's right. Don't stop. Don't change anything.
This is working. Do not veer.
Do not veer. Exactly. If I'm like, he knows because I'm bossy in the bedroom. And he told me the other day, he's like, that is one of your very best characteristics. Because we've had really good sex since we were
and he likes
dating.
to know that it's working.
He really likes to know that it's working. I mean, he's working hard and he wants to make sure he's getting an ROI, and the ROI is my pleasure. Yeah, if I'm climaxing and he even like goes to grab my butt, if he wasn't touching my butt before, that just sends my body in a different direction.
Right.
Maybe I'll still climax, but do you know what I mean? Is this
yeah, because you have a finite amount of nerves that could be active at one time. Do not involve some other body part right now. I need all of the attention right here.
That is right. That is correct. And that actually reminds me, when it's not a red light week, we have this new quickie position where we have intercourse, but we use the wand as well. And this is sort of what we were talking about before with like, you don't need the penetration or the thrusting. What does feel really, really good though, and this is why I love the wand, because there was really that one position that I would consistently climax in for intercourse. But now we have more variety because I can get that external stimulation, like right on that. I think it's the clitoral shaft that's like right behind, right in front of the pubic bone. So he's laying down, I get on top, and then I lay all the way back. Okay. So first, when we were first dating, he didn't have the flexibility in his penis for me to lay all the way back. Like I would lean back a little bit and he would be like, whoa, we're at the point now that I can lay all the way flat back and it's like no big deal. And somebody told me in DMs the other day, that's one way you can actually do penis lengthening. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I was like, I need to figure out what that ligament is. Anyway, so I lay all the way back. And then I put my feet on either side of his head and I'm laying back in between his feet. So he's got like a great view and I'm just like staring up at the ceiling. And I will use the wand, and then I like him to lube up his fingers if he's going to do this. Okay. He inserts 2 fingers in me on top of his penis. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the pads of the fingers down. There's no action. There's just an additional.
It's just filling. It's just a more filling experience.
Exactly. An additional feeling of fullness. And there's no thrusting with his penis either. I'm in as far as I can go. And then, or I have him in me as far as I can go. And then I use the wand on me. I have to tell you, these are probably the best orgasms I've had in my life. And in between, I can't even have him like touch my leg. Like I'm like, during that refractory period in between orgasms, like I can't even have something touch my skin. Like it's just, my whole body is so sensitive. I think just because of the combination of sensations there, but that is super, super fun. And then he is so worked up after watching me have 3 orgasms like that. Then he'll finish really quickly,
And be very satisfied because he brought you to pleasure, or assisted at least. He was part of the experience with you.
You know what? I think it was a man in my like TikTok comments threads. He's like, guys, toys are like your tag team partner, but you get the belt. So, it's like, yeah, it's like a great assist. It's a great, helper, but the toy's not going to get the credit. Like you as the person who,
right.
Just that's another whole conversation. People are worried that, that toy's going to take their place or something. No, it is the opposite times 100.
I want to make sure we get in a little bit more about your book before we wrap up. Tell us about your journey real quickly and what people are saying about your book, because I know that it's receiving wonderful reviews.
It really is. Thank you. Okay, so I wrote this book because I couldn't not write this book. I started as a screenplay 4 years ago because I just needed to get this story out. But I thought there's no way I can actually admit that this happened. The first scene is at an invite-only sex party in New York City where we had to send in headshots and a relationship bio to get on the guest list. It looked like a casting call for The Bachelor. So the reason we were at sex clubs was not because we thought there was anything wrong with our marriage. Growing up in figure skating, I was so good at disconnecting from what my mind was telling me or what my body was telling me and just projecting whatever I thought should be projected at that moment. So I was really good at making things look perfect and beautiful, even when I felt like shit. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game in that sport, right? Make it look wonderful, even if you feel like you're going to die. Like that's how you become successful. I hadn't realized that I had disconnected so much. So we're 10 years married. We've got 3 kids. We're both super stressed with our jobs and really disconnected. Great tag team parents, great, like, you know, making business decisions about our family and our home, things like that. And with beautiful Christmas cards, like everything from the outside looks very good that we've thought, oh yeah, things are fine. We're just stressed. So we don't rock climb or golf. So the only thing we could think of to do for fun was to go to sex clubs. We're there, Tonya, and right away, I realized, okay, this is incredibly hot, incredibly sexy. I think I would like to have some interaction with other people, but I don't want to be hooking up with rando strangers. So I download this couples dating app, okay? Like Swing Lifestyle, and yes, dating another couple is just as confusing and complicated as you would think. And by this point...
But the fact that there's an app definitely suggests that you were not the only people interested in something like this.
The day I downloaded the app, before we even had profile pictures up, we had 6 offers for dates that night, either going out for drinks or, hey, join us overnight in Atlantic City, from other couples who lived within 10 miles of us, Tonya. Swingers are everywhere. Okay. Every club we ever went to was packed. Every club. The first club we were ever members of, there were 8,000 couples.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of people, just period.
It is such a huge and interesting subculture. My husband was like, I don't know about this dating other people thing. I was just thinking we could have, a hot night, once a month.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like an all-in type person. We meet this other couple. Immediately, he and I hit it off in a big way. So much so that his wife is like, she calls it right away. She's like, yeah, and she points at Manny, my husband. She's like, we're just here to maybe hook up. You two are falling in love over there. And we're all like, like this
awkward laugh. Yeah.
Awkward laugh in our living room. Right? And it was true. I'm not sure. His name is Brad. I'm not sure exactly what he thought he was looking for in the swing lifestyle, but I realized immediately that the attention and validation and affirmation he gave me was something that I had always wanted and had pushed down. And then I started doubting everything. Like I thought, wow, do other adults, because I had a super affectionate boyfriend in high school, but I thought, Tonya, like that kind of love is for teenagers and like Disney princesses. Okay. Like that's not real life. And I started to wonder, wait, are other people actually having like grown-up marriages where there's this kind of like emotional intimacy and communication? And then I realized, oh, you know what? It's been like 10 years since Manny's even told me I was pretty, or that he loved me. Like, but I had just, the only thing worse than not getting what I wanted was asking for what I wanted and then having somebody go, "Oh, you don't really need that." There were so many layers from my conditioning, my parent, being parented, just the pressure on me as a young athlete. That was really, really hard to handle. So I had just pushed all of those things down, and now I'm getting it from this other dude. And I was like, wow, I am not who I thought I was, because I'm actually a person who is craving this so much, and I never knew. We broke it off with that other couple because it was entirely too confusing and chaotic. But then I'm left so lonely in the realizations I've had about my marriage.
Right.
And I feel way too ashamed to tell anybody how I came to those realizations. I feel like, if only I had been more grateful for my lovely looking life, I wouldn't be wanting these things. I mean, it was just, and I go into it in the book, like it was really dark. And I think that this is one of the reasons I knew I had to write it as a memoir, and I couldn't just pass it off as fiction, as a screenplay. I knew, even though most people who read the book have never been to a sex club and don't ever plan to go, but they still enjoy reading those scenes. I knew that a lot of people would find themselves in the book, and they would want to know that it happened to a real person, and they would want to know, then what? Like, they would want to put a face and a name to that story, to the parts that really resonated with them. And that's what's happening.
And what's incredible is that your story is called Swing. I mean, it's in the title, but now you are the face of keeping monogamy hot.
Isn't it funny? It is really, really funny. And I started making those videos before I had a clear path for even how my book would come into the world. But I say, like, I failed so badly at non-monogamy that I'm really committed to keeping monogamy working. So it's funny. And actually, because I talk so much about keeping monogamy hot, I have a ton of Christian couples who follow me. I have like couples from all walks of life who follow me. I think part of it is I coached adolescents for 2 decades. And I coached synchronized skating. So it was 12 to 20, sometimes 40 athletes on the ice at the same time. I would pause the music, and ice time is expensive, Tonya. It's like $400 an hour just for the ice, not even including coaching. So, and the sport's really competitive. I need to get stuff done quickly. So I would pause the music and say, "Hey, team," I only had like 30 seconds to get their attention, remind them that we were on the same side, explain what I wanted them to do, and then give them the motivation to go out and do it. So hopefully most of them would execute. Okay. It's almost like coaching adolescents is like the trial by fire that like stand-up comedians experience, I think. Because you know immediately from looking at their faces whether what you're saying is landing with them. So this is what I do in my videos. I talk about positions for orgasm like I'm talking about my favorite way to make iced coffee. And people are just, it disarms people. So even people who would normally not look for sex advice on Instagram or TikTok are super interested. And a lot of times then they send the videos to their partner because it's an opening there for them to discuss something. And I've delivered it in a way that's always a tiny bit humorous and just pretty matter of fact. So it's helping a lot of people talk about things they've never talked about before. And then the book is opening up this, I never knew couples were going to read it together, Tonya. Maybe because Manny and I don't read books together very often, but that's the part that's blowing my mind. And they're marking pages for each other or highlighting and then talking about those things. It's making things spicier in the bedroom. Yeah. So far, I don't think it's made any couples decide they want to go to sex clubs.
It makes them feel like they already have because they read the book.
It makes them feel like they already have, and it makes them find the potential in the relationship they already have, because that is the purpose. The story I found, the story I lived and then told was the grass is not greener, but And also, it's the relationship with yourself that you need to get really clear on. And that's the relationship I renegotiated the most, that then led to my other relationships changing, including my marriage.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful way to wrap it up. Why don't you tell the audience how they can get a copy of your book and hear these videos about keeping monogamy hot and however else you would like them to support you on your journey?
Yeah, thank you. So my website is ashleighrenard.com. So that's Ashleigh, Ashleigh, lots of extra letters in Ashleigh. And I'm at Ashleigh Renard on Instagram and TikTok. I'm in my Instagram stories every day. If you DM me, I will respond. I love people reaching out. I really appreciate people coming to me, confiding in me, asking for support. That is why I share these potentially very embarrassing stories, because I do feel like they can help people. So that's a great reminder that they are. My book's available everywhere, worldwide, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore. The audiobook will be available for purchase in a few months, but do you see this list of to-dos right here behind me? There are a lot of things on my list that are creeping up on top of that audiobook being released for purchase, but it's already recorded. You can get the audiobook for free if you buy the paperback. You just need to send me your order screenshot, and that email address that you need to send it to is on the homepage of my website.
And as the audience has heard, your wonderful voice will be the narrator for that amazing story.
That's right. If you really like listening to my voice, I have over 9 hours of content for you to listen to in that audiobook.
Do you want to plug the Writer's Bridge?
Yes. Okay. So part of my journey coming from skating into writing was realizing that I can be a good coach and encourager in whatever industry I'm in. So I used to coach 160 skaters. Now I coach 1,600 writers on the Writer's Bridge with my co-host, Allison K. Williams. If you go to my link in bio on Instagram or TikTok, you will see the link there for free platform building tips. I've built my platform from 2,000 followers on Instagram to, I think today, just before we started recording, I think I hit 300,000 between TikTok and Instagram.
Wow.
That was like 9 months ago that I had 2,000 followers. But figuring out the kind of content I really wanted to share, and really listening to my audience about what they like about it and what else they would like to know has just helped expand my reach in a way that I couldn't really even imagine.
Excellent. And I can vouch for just how wonderful the two of you are at bringing in good speakers and communicating with your group about where they can find the resources that they need to help them on their journeys. And you're both just so wonderfully helpful in general.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Tonya. We love having you there. So yeah, it's a free and always recorded bi-weekly Zoom chat, Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, and we've recorded all of them. So we have 25 episodes. If you sign up for that Writer's Bridge email list, you'll get the replays of all of the videos and also a searchable document where we have the timeline for every episode. So if you want to know about email newsletters, if you want to know how to connect with your audience in Instagram stories, I think a lot of that information, especially since Instagram has announced that they are really going to reward video content more than just static images, because Instagram is consistent in just copying the features of other platforms that are working really well, right? So they did it with Snapchat stories, and then now they're really trying to really pull people in and have them watch interesting content, bit after bit after bit, just like people are doing on TikTok right now.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for sharing all of that and for sharing your experience so candidly. I want to thank the audience for listening and watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please let Ashleigh know in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next week, remember to treat love as a verb. Thank you.